Good afternoon. This is Dr. Stephen Atkins, Director of the Master of Public Administration program at Lincoln Memorial University. You are listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. Thank you for tuning in and spending time with us today. I hope that you're having a great day wherever you're listening. We are broadcasting from the beautiful campus of Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee. And if you're listening to us on the radio, you're probably in range of our campus, and you've been by to see our campus and to see all that we have to offer here at LMU. But if you're outside of our listening area, if you're streaming this program worldwide over the internet, you may not have been to our campus. If not, you should make a point to come by and visit us. Again, my name is Dr. Stephen Atkins, and I'm the Director of the Master of Public Administration program, and you are listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. The purpose of this show is to discuss our culture, and so much of our American culture is shaped by what we learn, particularly from higher education, and especially by the programs that we have in the School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences here at LMU. Today we have a very special program titled Criminal Justice, Theories, Concepts, Culture, and Guns. We are joined in studio today by Dr. Ronald Craig, the new director of the Master of Science in Criminal Justice program, and Dr. Marianne Thrush, the Department Chair of Social Sciences and Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice. We are also joined today in studio by Gary Daniels, our radio engineer, who has a few words for us now.
Support for this program is made possible by Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee. Further information on academics, campus life, educational programs, admissions, and financial aid, and so much more, online, lmunet.edu.
Thank you, Gary. Now, before we get into today's show about LMU's Criminal Justice program, I want to tell you a little bit more about Lincoln Memorial University. And I usually start off by talking about the different educational programs that we have, but I want to tell you a little bit about women's volleyball. I want to give them a quick shout out because they've started off with a 4-0 start, having defeated Lee University, King, Erskine, and Mars Hill to this point. To be totally honest with you, I'm not sure where Erskine is, but I'm glad that we won in that crucial meeting. This week, the women's volleyball team has games on the road against Tusculum and Coker, and we wish them well. In addition to women's volleyball, Lincoln Memorial also has baseball, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's lacrosse, men's and women's soccer, and many other sports. And we have so many sports that I really have trouble keeping up with everything that we have going on here. But if you're in the area, or if you're just a college athletics enthusiast, I would encourage you to come by our campus and check out one of our home games. We have newer and better facilities, and we're currently building some new facilities that I think you'd be really excited to see. So you should come by and give us a shot. But again, as much as we love our sports here, Lincoln Memorial is first and foremost an institution of higher learning. And just as we have many different sports to enjoy, there are also so many ways to be a part of our academic community here as well. In fact, at Lincoln Memorial University, we have 9 different schools at 11 extended sites across the Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia region, with a total of 7 doctoral or terminal degrees and many graduate-level master's and advanced degrees as well. So I want to run you through what these programs are, and hopefully you'll hear something and think, man, I want to get more information and be a part of that program. What we have the Allied Health Sciences with Dean Dr. Beth Thompson. This program includes programs in athletic training and medical laboratory science. We have the School of Business with Dean Dr. James Marshall. We have the Carter and Moyers School of Education with Dean Dr. Sylvia Lynch. The School of Math and Sciences with Dean Adam Rollins. The Kaler School of Nursing with Dean Dr. Marianne Moderson. And it's really one of the standout programs here at LMU. The Bachelor of Science in Nursing, the BSN class of 2015 of the Kaler School of Nursing, earned the highest pass rate of any nursing school offering a BSN degree in East Tennessee. And that was just for 2015. I don't know if the numbers are in for last year yet, but it's really a point of pride for our university, and we love having them be a part of all that we do here. We also have the DeBus College of Osteopathic Medicine with Dean Dr. Brian Kessler. DCOM, as it's short, is one of the newest and most prominent buildings on our campus, and it currently offers 2 professional degree programs with a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, a DO, and the Master of Medical Science in Physician Assistant Studies. In addition, at one of our Knoxville locations, we have the Duncan School of Law with Dean Judge Gary Wade. Again, another bright point of our university that we're sending off people to the field of law to maybe improve the way that people view law in this area and how attorneys handle themselves. And so we're glad to have the Duncan School of Law. We also have the College of Veterinary Medicine with Dr. Jason Johnson as the dean. And our crown jewel, at least in our unbiased view, is the Paul V. Hamilton School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. AHSS, as it's known, has 10 major programs in art, history, music, communications, philosophy and religion, social work, psychology, political science, criminal justice, as we'll discuss today, and English. And we also have 2 graduate programs. We have the Master of Science in Criminal Justice, which we'll discuss today, and we have the Master of Public Administration, which I hear has an excellent director, and that he's very charismatic and good-looking and very humble. So these are all very good things that I've heard about the director of this program. Again, I'm your host today, Dr. Stephen Atkins, director of the Master of Public Administration program. We also have many minor programs in Paul V. Hamilton School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. We have a theater and music performances throughout the year, but our fall play this semester is 12 Angry Jurors, an adaptation of the classic play 12 Angry Men. Under the direction of Assistant Professor of Theater Joe Gill, 12 Angry Jurors depicts a jury considering the fate of a young man on trial for murdering his father. Performances of 12 Angry Jurors are set for October 19th through 28th of this year in the Mars Performing Arts Center. So we've been through all the different schools, and that's sort of my overview of all of the great things that we have to offer here at Lincoln Memorial University. If you're listening to this program and you're a high school student trying to decide where to attend college, or if you've been away from school for a while but you want to get your undergraduate degree, or if you simply want to further your career with a graduate or doctoral degree, you really should consider Lincoln Memorial University. If you want to find out more information about our university, or if you want to apply, you can visit lmunet.edu, or you can look us up and simply give us a call. We really do have friendly staff that would be happy to talk to you on the phone or even meet with you in person to answer any question that you might have about our university or college life or academic expectations. Really, any question or concern you might have, I think that we can answer it, and I think that you can find a good academic home here at Lincoln Memorial University. But I especially, and this is something that I come to every time that I host the show, I want to challenge those of you that are listening, but for whatever reason, think that you're not cut out for college. Maybe you've been working and you think that you've been away from school for too long. I want to let you know that at LMU, we want to help you succeed, and we want to help you meet your goals. You have incredible potential for great things. We all do. And at LMU, we want to help you unlock that potential and be the person that you are always meant to be. So again, if you're someone that has been hesitant about attending college, please look us up and give us a call here at Lincoln Memorial University. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, today's show is titled Criminal Justice: Theories, Concepts, Culture, and Guns. So let's now turn to our guests in the studio, starting with Dr. Thrush. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Mary Ann Thrush, and I'm Department Chair of Social Sciences. Within our department, we have political science, psychology, and criminal justice. What would you like me to say?
You can tell me all kinds of... So where did you go to school? Where did you go to undergraduate school?
Undergraduate at Purdue.
Okay. What city's Purdue in? I can't.
West Lafayette, Indiana.
I've been inside their football stadium when it was totally empty one day, and I thought that was really neat. So yeah, I've been in that direction anyway.
Yeah. The architect of Purdue said that he thought there was nothing more beautiful than a red brick wall. So you can kind of imagine what the buildings look like.
Right.
But it's a great school, and I love going there. My degree was in foreign languages, believe it or not.
Oh, so how did you go from foreign languages now to criminal justice? Because that seems
it's a long journey.
Okay, long journey. Do we need several hours for this? Is this
no,
an
I
epic
think I
tale?
can do it in maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good.
When I went back to school for my bachelor's degree, I had a really great job as a laboratory associate. So I was in charge of a research laboratory that did research in immunology. Specifically, we looked at childhood leukemia. It was a really great, interesting job, but I'd always wanted a degree. So I did it. And then as life unfolded, I decided that I needed to do something more. So I went to school for my Master's of Social Work at University of Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I've been in private practice as a psychotherapist for over 25 years.
Wow.
That was my longest.
So how did you enjoy that position? Did you
I
I mean,
loved
obviously
it.
you stuck with it. So,
I love working with people. It was just and I had the best clients. I don't know how anybody else got clients, but mine were the best.
And then you went on and got your doctorate from Florida?
From University of Florida. What happened was I moved out to California and started a private practice, but I wasn't busy enough. I like being very busy.
Right.
So I decided I needed a job, and I ended up working for the University of California, San Diego, with a bridging program that helped incarcerated people go from prison to parole. And I realized this was a population that really needed support, and I was called to it. And decided that I would go back to school and get a PhD in criminal justice. And here I am.
Excellent. Well, let's now turn briefly before the break to Dr. Ronald Craig. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Ron Craig. I'm the new program chair for Criminal Justice Masters Online, which is a fully online curriculum that we just recently launched here at LMU. My background entails I have a doctorate degree in criminal justice from Michigan State University.
Okay.
Yay.
So another Big Ten person here.
Yes. While I was working on my doctorate at Michigan State, I was the student conduct judicial affairs officer for almost 10 years. And just to give you some brief insight, several years ago when Michigan State played Duke in the Final Four in Florida, and Duke beat Michigan State, and the students on campus kind of expressed their unhappiness and did about $500,000 worth of damage to the university. I oversaw all those judicial cases, just to give you an idea.
Wow.
So I also have a master's in law enforcement administration from Western Illinois University and a bachelor's in political science from Russ College in Mississippi, a historically black college. Besides academia, I've served as a public safety officer on a college campus, juvenile and adult probation for the state of Illinois. And that's it professionally that I can think of.
That's good. So you have been living in Atlanta for a while now?
Yes, I've been in Atlanta for about 10 years. Have 2 children. My daughter recently graduated from high school, and she's a freshman at Tennessee State University, and my son started high school this year.
Oh, excellent. Well, it's so nice to meet both of you. We're going to take a short break now. But again, I'm your host today, Dr. Stephen Atkins, and you're listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences.
Each Tuesday evening from 9 to 11 Eastern, you will find the best of classic rock from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. You will hear such artists as Boston, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Bruce Springsteen, Toto, Jefferson Airplane, and many other greats. Classic rock and roll, Tuesdays, 9 to 11 Eastern on WLMU, 91.3 FM, and worldwide at 913thegap.com.
What if I told you that a tornado was going to happen tomorrow, right where you live? That it would touch down at exactly 3:17 p.m., and I told you the exact path it would take. You would, of course, prepare. You would talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a tornado will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you have a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. I'm your host for today, Dr. Stephen Atkins, Director of the Master of Public Administration program here at Lincoln Memorial University. And I'm joined in studio today by Dr. Ronald Craig and Dr. Mary Ann Thrush, who are both part of the Criminal Justice program at Lincoln Memorial University. So, my question to you now is, because it's not my program, I don't know as much about MSCJ and everything that you do in criminal justice. So can either of you tell me about criminal justice as a field? What do you study in criminal justice?
Do you want to take that or shall I start?
You can start.
I'll start.
Ladies first.
Primarily, criminal justice is divided into three areas. We study police and policing, we study courts, and we study corrections. Beyond that, we study why people commit crime, what leads them into crime. We study crime in general. Just about everything you can think of having to do with crime.
Yeah, well, some of the causations and why is it that some people don't commit crimes?
Good, yeah. Yeah.
So that's another good area. And one of the things I like to, when I'm lecturing with students, is to ask, what makes a criminal? Is it someone who's arrested or someone who commits a crime? Something that is a criminal act, I should say. So those are some of the areas we study. And we'd like for students to show an interest with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at LMU, we have both an undergraduate program in criminal justice, and we have the graduate program, the Master of Science in Criminal Justice. So if I were a student that was interested in either the undergraduate or graduate programs, what could maybe I hope to do after I graduate? So what can I do with my degree?
Your bachelor's degree?
My bachelor's degree, yeah.
Just about anything having to do with policing. One of the hot topics these days is crime mapping that help police departments figure out where they should put resources. So someone who's interested in the area of criminal justice and computers, that would be an area they could go into. Our graduates pretty much go into three areas, either law enforcement or probation, parole, or go to graduate school or law school.
Okay.
Let's we'll speak about crime mapping real quick. To give you an idea, major metropolitan areas, CompStat is a data system that a lot of law enforcement agencies use. And what will happen is, if you have prostitution in one area or narcotics in another area, that type of position, you would map out the higher crime rates, and police agencies concentrate various departments towards addressing issues in those areas. So if it's high prostitution, they would have vice and do undercover vice things. That's how Dr. Thrush is mentioning about the crime mapping.
Okay. So obviously the undergraduate degree, that's going to be your 4 years of undergraduate work. Can you tell me a little bit about the graduate program and maybe how long it takes to complete this program and maybe the benefits for you as a student going into the program?
Well, our graduate program, as I mentioned earlier, is fully online. It's launched, and we have some students enrolled. Our targeted time frame is 18 months to 2 years or 4 semesters. where you can, if you're enrolled full time, you can complete. That would include taking summer courses. It's, as I said, fully online. So our target area is not just local students, but students globally. We're looking at undergraduate students who just finished and recently completed their undergraduate degrees, and our professional working students who are working probably in the field, but they don't have the time to come to campus, so they want to continue to take their education in an asynchronous online environment.
I teach theory in the online program, and I had never taught online before. I love teaching. When I first was a graduate student, I walked into that first classroom and my heart opened and I thought, oh boy, this is where I belong.
Yes.
So I was a little leery about online teaching. But what I'm finding, and we're about a third of the way through the semester, is it's a very different way of relating to students. We have a discussion board and they write something and then I respond to those. So in a way, the online is a little more interactive.
Yes, it is.
Because a lot of times if you're in a seated class, you can just sit there.
Well, and I have that experience too, where you've got students that just want to sit in the back of the classroom and,
Right.
and hide a little bit, but the online courses really do force you, and I don't think this is a bad thing, they force you into interaction. And often I find that those students that sit in the back of the classroom, it's not because they don't want to be there, but they maybe feel timid or afraid of being in that seated environment, but that when you give them the opportunity to say things in a manner that maybe they have a little bit more control over, that they're a little bit more willing to be forthcoming about things that they think. And so I think there's some real advantages to these online programs.
Yes,
Yeah,
online requires all students to participate,
Yeah.
regardless, in the discussions. And you can, because so many different things happen in criminal justice throughout a semester, you can kind of cultivate the discussion towards maybe a more current event that expands the whole discussion, and it's a little more rigorous, and that's what people find. It's a time management issue. They have to balance the work-life balance of working, home life, and then continuing their education.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to what Dr. Atkins said. Sometimes people need to think about things. So a lot of my students in a seated class, it's not because they don't want to participate, it's that they need that assimilation time.
Well,
Absolutely.
they need time to make connections that
Exactly.
especially if you're just experiencing the information for the first time, maybe your brain just hasn't processed it yet, but that if you spend a little bit more time with it, I often find that I'll wake up with ideas and I think, oh, that's what I was thinking about last night, but I really hadn't processed it, but now, I kind of get the bigger picture here. So I really do think there are a lot of advantages to an online program, and I'm really excited for you that you've gone this online route. So you talked about theory as one of the courses in the MSCJ program. What are some other courses that you could take, both required and maybe elective courses within the program?
We have 5 core courses and then a elective. The program itself is 36 hours. Once a student has met those 5 core courses, they can select some of the other areas specializations they wish to go into. Other thing I really want to highlight is we each, for online, just to make sure students don't feel isolation, like they're out on the island by themselves, we have a collaborate hour, which each professor does in each course. My collaborate hours, for example, I'm teaching 2 courses online right now. And for one course I do on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And on another course I do on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I was telling my colleagues earlier, yesterday, it was when I did my 9 o'clock course, there was a fire alarm that went off. And in my collaborate session, so that was all recorded, but I re-recorded the session afterwards. And these things happen. I just say that because real world things do happen. Still.
The first unit that I recorded, the UPS guy drove by and my dogs went berserk. So this morning I did mine in my office and it worked
Great.
a little better.
So what classes are you teaching this semester?
I'm teaching criminal justice research, we'll look at quantitative and qualitative analysis on sampling and just how crime data is collected, and then crime ethics in criminal justice as well. So those two courses that give students a mastery of both of those areas.
Well, what if I'm a student that says, well, I'm a little bit scared of math and statistics? Can I do the MSCJ program?
Yes, you can.
Right
Are you
answer.
sure?
The reason I say that is because I was not a quantitative student myself. I struggled, and I'm being completely honest and clear with you all. I struggled through stats myself, but it was well worth the effort. And yes, you can do that because there are other resources that the professor, like who is me myself, will help you through, because I've had that experience as a student.
Well, and I think this is another advantage of an online program, is that because in the MPA program, I'm teaching a methods course right now too. And if you're a student that didn't get it the first time around, you know what you can do? Well, you can rewind and listen to that same thing right back again. So
Yes.
I really like that aspect of the online program. So what courses are you teaching this semester, Dr.
This
Thrush?
semester, I'm teaching 2 undergraduate courses and then the graduate online theory. In the undergraduate, speaking of methods, I'm teaching a pre-methods course.
Pre-methods course.
Because a lot of times students have issues with methods and statistics. So this course is a 5-week course, and it's designed to teach the students the jargon.
Well, in any profession that you're going to go into, you need to be able to do evaluation of your organization. What are the programs that your organization is putting into place?
Right.
Are these things working or not? And so we might be scared of methods, but we need to embrace that. And I think that's one of our challenges as instructors is we need to make this palatable to our students. It's really not hard. It's really just overcoming the appearance of the difficulty of the statistics and any other kind of methods that you're using.
It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And even if you're not in a situation where you would set up a study, an evaluation study, you're reading things all the time.
Yes.
And if you have a basis in research, then you can evaluate what you're reading and say, okay, this really wasn't a very good study because they didn't have any controls, or these were dumb questions that they asked. That's not going to get to what they want.
Well, and it's nice not to just take for granted and just say, well, I assume that what the researcher is telling me is correct, but I don't really know because I'm not familiar enough. And it's what I stress to my students, and I think you do too, is that we don't expect you to make huge, complex studies with, the most advanced methods, but we just like you to be able to understand what other people are saying at times, and for you to be able to conduct basic studies, because methods aren't something you necessarily pick up in one semester. It's really a lifelong thing that you have to stick with, and you get better and better over time, and it's really not all that intimidating. So, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you have these great courses. Any other notes about the criminal justice undergrad or graduate programs?
We also have a criminology course that we offer at the master's level that gives you more in-depth knowledge base of theory. So that can be more challenging because we look at that course to explain why does crime help explain, I should say, why does crime occur or why doesn't it occur?
And that's my thing, is theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I enjoy that too from the public administration side, is that sometimes you can take a concept and take it out to an abstract and hope to explain different phenomena and your studies. And I know both criminal justice and public administration are very related in that way. But again, I want to thank both of you for being here today, and we're going to continue the discussion after a short break. But you are listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Atkins.
Broadcasting from our studios here on the historic campus of Lincoln Memorial University, this is WLMU, Harrogate, Tennessee, on the FM dial at 91.3, and you can find us streaming worldwide 913thegap.com.
Major key alert! Don't ever play yourself. You want to get that paper to secure the bag? You better turn in that paper and get an A+.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
The key is to make it, so make it.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
WLMU's broadcast and webcast is made possible by support from Lincoln Memorial University, which encourages you, our listeners, to join with them in supporting our unique programming here in the Cumberland Gap area. Further information about Lincoln Memorial University, www.lmunet.edu.
Think you're dealing with drug poisoning, chemical poisoning, food poisoning? Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
On Wednesday evenings, you can tune your radio to WLMU and hear the best blues in the tri-state area with your host, Gary Daniels. He'll be playing the best blues artists of today and the best blues artists of yesteryear. Everything from Robert Johnson, Buddy Guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Muddy Waters, and many more. It's Wednesday Evening Blues from 9 to 11, right here on 91.3 WLMU.
On Thursday evenings, you can tune in to the Thursday Night Jazz Cafe, where you will hear both traditional and contemporary jazz, along with big band and swing and the great crooners of yesteryear. The Thursday Night Jazz Cafe. The doors open at 9 p.m., and you will hear the best of jazz in the tri-state area till midnight and maybe beyond. The Thursday Night Jazz Cafe here on Cumberland Gap Radio.
Hello, and welcome back to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Atkins of the Master of Public Administration program, and we're joined in studio today by Dr. Craig and Dr. Thrush of the Criminal Justice program here at Lincoln Memorial University. So before the break, we were talking with Dr. Thrush and Dr. Craig about different theories in criminal justice, or at least the presence of theory in criminal justice. So what theories are there of any importance to us and might be interesting to our listeners?
Well, I'll take that. Since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to know why. Why do people behave the way they do? Sometimes it's really off the wall, and other times it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So a couple summers ago, I decided I really need to understand what I'm really teaching. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit about courts, a little bit about police, a little bit about corrections, and that's all great. Mm-hmm. But what's at the core of that? So I studied deviance for a whole summer, and it was great.
Deviance or deviance?
Well, a little bit of both.
You just hung out with the wrong crowd for a while?
I tried, but I couldn't make that work.
So what do you mean by deviance?
Well, people who behave contrary to pro-social or conventional society. Mm-hmm. And it's really kind of interesting. It used to be that the way that behavior was explained was either it was a sin, that the devil made me do it, mm-hmm. or it was a sickness, that this person is crazy, or it was a special characteristic of a subculture. And I think you'll find we still do some of that. How do we explain what happens in these violent confrontations? Well, they must be crazy. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
So how can this theory of deviance be applied to maybe gun problems in the United States? Because we talk a lot, and you see on the news about gun problems, gun ownership, or that maybe there's gun violence in neighborhoods. How can deviance be used to explain the presence of that type of activity?
Well, if you look at deviance itself, there are three primary explanations that are lasting. They come more from sociology than criminal justice. One is from Durkheim, the sociologist Emile Durkheim, and he said that it was intrinsic to human beings, that there's some part of us that just behave deviantly from time to time, mm-hmm. and there are lots of reasons for that. Then there's the relativists, and these folks say that it's a social product, that people become deviant because they're responding to something going on in their environment. And then the third one is social power, and that comes from Marx. And that's about making and enforcing the laws, and the ruling class, if you will, make the laws, decide which laws will be enforced, and they do that to serve their population. So when we're talking about why is there gun violence, why do these people go around carrying guns? Well, maybe it's okay to just carry the gun, but when they go further than that, how do we understand that? Why do people do things that hurt other people? And that's what we try to explain.
So I want to make a brief note, is that you mentioned that some of these theories don't come from criminal justice so much as they come from sociology.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the interesting things about being a part of a graduate program, is that if you're in the MPA program, you're not just studying political science. And if you're in the MSCJ program, you're not just studying criminal justice. You're looking at sociology, psychology, social work, all of these other fields to see what they can contribute to your understanding in your particular realm, whether it be government or nonprofit generally, or the criminal justice field. So you've named 3 theories, and now I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you prescribe to any one of these theories more than the other, and why? Why have you chosen one, or is it the case that maybe all 3 have some usefulness for us?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay. I like stories.
There are 2 rather famous criminal justice theorists, Dr. Ron Akers and Dr. Travis Hershey. And Dr. Hershey says that it's not a question of why do people commit crime, it's why don't people commit crime. And he says that they don't commit crime because they're bonded to pro-social culture. And Dr. Akers says, no, people commit crime because they learn to do it. So the
learn to not commit crime?
Learn to commit crime.
Oh, okay. Oh, they learn to commit crime.
Hershey says, why don't people commit crime? Akers says, why do people commit crime? And the metaphor is, Akers says, if you lay down with dogs, you're going to get up with fleas. And Hershey says that you hang out with dogs because that's your nature.
Right. So, Dr. Craig, do you have any thoughts about deviance or gun
Yes,
problems?
I'm going to add to Dr. Thrush's analogy. Think about it this way. When you go to a movie theater or a concert or a big football game or a basketball game or something, why do people just get in line?
They see the line and they assume that that's where they're supposed to be.
Right. That is correct. When did you learn that?
Kindergarten.
Preschool.
At the water fountain.
Yes.
Kindergarten
or preschool.
When I was told repeatedly to go to the back of the line, but I just decided to get the water anyway.
And in some cases, you might have learned put your hand on the person in front of your shoulder to give them space, so you didn't invade their space, right? So when someone jumps a line or cuts a line, that speaks to a deviant behavior because it's not normal. You see that even if you go to amusement parks and they give you this little number when you're waiting in the line for the roller coaster or something to call if somebody for line jumpers. That's that's exhibiting a deviant behavior, and that fits Dr. Thrush's analogy of why people do it. But we conform, and we were taught to conform as early as preschool, or you say kindergarten. As kindergarten, we're all taught to conform. We're taught to get in line to go to these events, and we think it's just unusual when somebody doesn't follow that purview.
And sometimes that goes awry, and and people behave opposite of the way they're supposed to behave.
Absolutely.
So, applied back to the context of gun violence, is gun violence a problem, or is that something that's being inflated by the media? Because when these sort of focusing events happen and we see them, and maybe do we build them up too much, or is gun violence a problem in the United States? And maybe I'm going to ask you to solve it too. How do we fix it if it is a problem?
Boy, is that a loaded question.
I asked so many questions there. I'm trying to get you to feed me.
We have the most violence of any industrialized country. We do. And how do you explain that phenomenon? Do you just blame it on guns or the people? That's a chicken egg argument. So I'm going to sidestep part of that to Dr. Thrush.
Chicken egg. Okay, so why do we have gun violence?
Yeah, and is it really a problem in the United States? Dr. Craig's told us yes.
Well, obviously it's a problem when you have situations like Sandy Hook where all those children were killed.
Right.
The one in Littleton, Ohio, quite a few years ago, when 2 boys went into the high school and shot the students. And this is not a good plan. So obviously we do have gun violence. So the question is, why do we have it and what can we do about it? Well, that's where theory comes in, is we have to understand why it's happening in order to understand how we can fix it. The old historical idea that it's a sickness is primarily what a lot of our correction programs are. It's about rehabilitation. That these folks have, it's not really mental illness, it's more like their psychology is just messed up. Instead of things being all nice and organized, they're jumbled up. And so the process of healing that, if you will, is to organize it and to teach the incarcerated person to slow down enough so they can recognize the signals, physical signals, emotional signals that happen before they're ready to commit some act of violence. So, but that is if you think it's a sickness. If you don't, if you think it's a sin, for instance, then you're going to do a lot of teaching of religion.
Yes.
And one of the things that I noticed in the California system was that all of these folks, I worked mostly in men's prisons, they'd come into prisons and they would get religion. And it was great. I mean, it really honestly was great. These people were peaceful. And I thought, this is a prison? I thought this was violent. No, it's not. But they leave prison, and then they go back into the environment. We don't have enough reentry support for these folks to keep them out of their old environment. So they go back to their old ways, and religion goes by the wayside, which is really sad to me.
Well,
because there was no environmental change, we put them right back and then expect them to function in that short amount of time that we rehabilitated them. When I worked in the juvenile court system, we had, I used to tell the story to students, and I believe I can tell it in enough time. I had a young man who was a part of a Vice Lord Chicago gang. We sent him to Boys Town when he was 16, did exceptionally well there, graduated from high school, got a football scholarship, right? And they let him come home that summer before he was to go to college. And what do you think happened?
Got back into crime.
He went right back into that environment in those short 2.5 months and got arrested and right back in crime. Lost his college scholarship, and that was it. They never should have allowed him to go back into that environment. But you can't expect someone who had 16 years of one kind of environment to be fully rehabilitated in 1 year, less than a year.
Well, and that just seems like an overwhelming task, but certainly the purpose of studies of criminal justice to be able to figure out how do we make that transition back into the environment, because I would imagine that changing that environment's a pretty difficult task. It's a monumental task.
Well, it's basically threefold. You have to, like I said, help the person organize their psychological makeup. You have to help them find a way to create a different environment for themselves, a different context. Where are my notes? And you have to help them develop a value system so that their intention is not just self-gratification. Their intention is to help other people, or something equally good.
Well, this has been an excellent conversation so far, and I want to thank Dr. Craig and Dr. Thrush. We're going to take a short break now, but you've been listening to our program, American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences.
There is a jewel in the crown right here in our Cumberland Mountains, and it's the Abraham Lincoln Library and Museum, located here on the historic campus of LMU. It houses one of the top 5 Lincoln and Civil War collections in the entire world, and it's right here in our own backyard, located here in Harrogate, Tennessee, at the main entrance of LMU's campus. For more information, their number is 423-869-6235 and on the World Wide Web at lmunet.edu/museum.
On Monday evenings, the best of classic Motown, R&B, and doo-wop take to the airwaves of WLMU Radio. You will hear such artists as The Supremes, The Platters, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, The Dell Vikings, Marvin Gaye, and other legendary artists. Classic Motown Sounds, Monday nights, 9 to midnight Eastern on WLMU, 91.3 FM, and worldwide at 913thegap.com.
Welcome back to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences. I'm your host today, Dr. Stephen Atkins of the Master of Public Administration program, and we're joined in studio by Dr. Craig and Dr. Thrush of the Criminal Justice programs here at Lincoln Memorial University. Dr. Craig, I know that one of your interests is with social media and how social media can impact criminal justice, or maybe law enforcement more specifically. Can you tell us a little bit about your studies in that area?
Yes. I'm sure all our listeners, or at least majority of our listeners, has some form of social media interaction. And what I mean is Facebook, Twitter, Kik, and whatever else I'm not thinking of at the time, at this current time. What's the one with the pictures?
The Instagram.
Instagram. Thank you very much.
That's my favorite social media platform. You don't have to offend anybody. Just put up a picture of your food. You're good to go. That's how I use the platform. Maybe there's more creative ways to use it. I don't know.
So one of the things I research in the area of social media and crime, if you look at some of the major events in crime in the last, particularly with policing in the last 2 years, they all started on social media. If you look at the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case, the Eric Gardner case, the Philando Castile case, all those cases initially started trending on social media. In fact, I believe the Castile case, which was out of Minneapolis area, was actually on Facebook Live at the time. And once they used the word trending, major media outlets monitor what people are posting. And no longer, when I grew up in the era where you had to get home by 6 o'clock to watch the news from CBS, NBC,
Right.
ABC, and then later Fox. Now media is at the access of your phone or your computer or your whatever smart device you have. And so what we look at in even the most recent events with the inclement weather in the southeastern part of the country, a lot of the information we're receiving is via social media. So what I look at is how that impacts our thinking, how it impacts our law enforcement in their policy making. De-escalation is a new trend in some law enforcement agencies. Also, the whole concept of using body cams for some law enforcement agencies. All that comes as a result of how things have been presented to us in social media. And it's not a matter of taking a position. It's just a matter of technology is changing our whole interaction with how police, law enforcement, even things that winds its way through the court system are addressed.
So how should law enforcement agencies use social media? Because a lot of what you've been talking about, it sounds to me as though it's the public presenting an issue, something that's happening out in the world. Maybe an incident's been filmed and is live on Facebook. But how does law enforcement respond through their social media in order to maybe combat negative issues or whatever, however they need to use it?
And for investigative purposes, you can utilize social media to contact law enforcement on particular cases. If you look at the recent events, one of the things that was unique is a lot of the I guess I'll just say officials because I don't want to misquote, said post where you are, like in Florida or in Houston, so EMS can find you. And that's via social media. That's why that's a tool that was advantageous for social media to utilize. The other things is, if you look at the events that happened in Charlottesville, law enforcement has used social media to identify different perpetrators in the incidents that happened in Charlottesville as of recently, and as they say, if you know these people, there's a lot of facial recognition software. So those have been some advantages for law enforcement.
So we had a guest come last year to the radio program was he from Maine, talking about his
Tim Cotton,
his use of social
wonderful.
media.
Yeah.
How is his approach to social media maybe a little bit different than the norm?
Oh, he's one of my all-time favorites. I get his post first on my Facebook every day.
Yeah.
And I think he does more to counter the violent cop stereotype, because he writes every day about regular things, about how law enforcement officers in his department in Bangor, Maine, help people. You know, who got this cat out of the tree and who helped this woman do this and do that. And it breaks things down into bites that are human. It's not this big violence or this big authority. It's a person helping people. And he does a good job of that.
Well, do you think, is that something that we need to maximize? Because do police forces, do officers have a negative impression of right now out in the public?
In some sub parts, for sure.
Yeah.
Something started just after all of the riots of the 60s. It was called community policing. And it's where law enforcement officers went out into the community to see what the community needed. And there were lots of different kinds of programs set up. There was a lot of funding for small programs, large departments, etc. And that's coming back. I heard the other day, I can't remember which city it was in, but the police department was giving free donuts and coffee on Saturday morning to anybody who wanted to come by and chat.
Right.
So they're really reaching out, school resource officers from police departments, helping to bring back that idea that this is a friendly face. This is who you go to when you're in trouble.
Absolutely.
And
including civilian ride-alongs as well.
Right, yes. Yeah, they had a program in San Diego where you could do this 8-week course, and you'd go through some of the trainings.
Yeah.
And the one that I remember was the Canine program. That was amazing to watch this guy in all this padded stuff and this dog eat him up.
Yes.
So do you think there's an issue among those sub-communities that maybe have the worst impression of law enforcement? Is it also harder to reach those communities?
Harder in what way?
Well, I don't know. This is sort of my Dr. Sellers curveball. Are there certain
Okay.
obstacles that are faced by some communities rather than others in terms of law enforcement being able to reach them?
Absolutely. And you have to look at the historical conflict between those communities, as Dr. Thrush alluded to about the 1960s. But prior to that prior to integration and desegregation, what was the relationship between the police and those communities? You also look at the diversity of the forces, police forces. Those are all these are variables that come into play. And those officers, do they live in those communities or nearby those communities? Because that contributes to the type of investment they may have in those communities. So those are all variables, I think, that factor in. And then you have to factor in technology now, as we started this off, because you can film a crystal clear event with your phone now, okay? And you can stream, and you don't have to wait for somebody, and you don't have to send it to the news media anymore. All those that makes, for lack of a better term, an interesting cocktail.
Well, I want to change gears here now as we come to a close on the program. how has the undergraduate and graduate programs in criminal justice, how have they attempted to maybe engage with this community or have the community engage with its students even?
I'll start with that.
Sure.
A little bit. As I said before, our students will primarily go into one of three areas. They'll go into law enforcement, probation, parole, or they'll go to law school or graduate school. So two things are happening. One is our students, for the most part, don't want to leave this area. And that's tricky because there are only so many jobs in this area.
Right.
Fortunately, our graduates all have jobs.
Right. Well, that's good.
As long as I've been here, and this is my 4th year, the students we graduate have a place to go, which I think is magnificent. But the other thing that's happening is it's that we're sending our best students out into the counties, out into the communities, out into this area. But we're also expanding our students' ideas about where they can go. I got a flyer from Madison, Wisconsin. They're looking for new law enforcement officers, and the pay starts at $84,000 a year.
Ooh.
That's a heck of a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So maybe some of these students will go out to other areas, then come back. So we're fostering an interaction between this area and the wider community.
What do you think are the benefits of maybe leaving the area for a while and then coming back? What sort of benefit does that provide?
Oh boy, it's been huge for me. I was raised in a tiny, tiny little rural town in Indiana, and I've lived in Mexico, I've lived in California, Arizona, lots of different states, and I'm finally kind of back home to a rural area. And I'm here because I really appreciate this way of being in the world. But I don't know that I could have appreciated it as much had I not gone out and lived in a huge city of San Diego for 10 years. I'm so glad to be here.
Dr. Craig, do you think there's advantages to having lived and worked in other parts of the country, especially in terms of criminal justice?
Yes, I think our master's students have the opportunity, either, as I mentioned earlier, they're working professionals looking to advance in their career, or they're students that come out of the bachelor's program and it's a feeder and we're looking into moving and getting a bachelor's. So there are some, like United States federal probation, for example, they prefer you to have a master's degree. They pay starting pay in around the 60s or 70s, and then it's on a federal pay scale. So there's some advantages there. A lot of the federal agencies, which may require you, for example, the FBI wants you to have 3 years of full-time working experience, will consider your master's degree maybe 2 years of working experience. And then research shows you're more likely to move up in even policing if you have a master's degree. One unique thing about policing is all officers start at patrol, but the more educated officer, the more likely they are to move up the ranks.
Do you think it contributes any to maybe officers' ability to empathize when they've experienced a greater diversity of peoples, having lived in different areas?
Sure, absolutely.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay. Well, so just to close out the program, what would you tell students that are maybe considering the criminal justice programs at Lincoln Memorial University?
Come on down.
I
We're
echo
a
that
good
sentiment.
group of folks.
Yes, come on down.
Okay. Well, I want to thank our guest today, Dr. Ronald Craig, the new director of the Master of Science in Criminal Justice program here at Lincoln Memorial, and Dr. Mary Ann Thrush, what is your title? On the head, the director,
the department chair,
the grand poobah of social sciences in the Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences department. Again, I've been your host today, Dr. Stephen Atkins, director of the Master of Public Administration program here at Lincoln Memorial University. If you have any questions about our programs, we encourage you to call or email us. But you've been listening to our program, American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and the Social Sciences.
Support for this program is made possible by Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee. Further information on academics, campus life, educational programs, admissions, financial aid, and much more online, lmunet.edu. This afternoon's program was produced by Dr. Martin Sellers and Dr. Adkins. Our technical producer is Gary Daniels, our program director is Clay Stanifer, and our executive producer is Adam Haley. Our theme music is White Horses, as performed by Tierra Negra and Muriel Anderson. American culture, arts, humanity,